Hello, friends of the internet. My name is Austin Belzer, and welcome back to the Austin B Media Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be sitting down with Jack Martin of Film Feeder to discuss Disney's 2002 animated classic Lilo and Stitch, which is also getting a remake in a few months, or maybe this month. I forget. But today we're going to be just deep diving into our history with Lilo and Stitch, discussing its story, its characters, its theme, all the bases, as well as spoilers. But I think if you haven't seen it by now, you're probably not going to see it until the remake comes out. So, Jack, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Austin. Hi, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, no, Lilo and Stitch. I mean, in terms of the when the remake is coming out, it is later this month. I believe
Okay.
it's coming out the same week as Mission Impossible. So that's going to be I think they're aiming for a new Barbenheimer thing here. So maybe like Stitch and Impossible or something like that.
Mission Stitch.
Mission Stitch. Yeah, it's funny because it's not also How to Train Your Dragon is getting a live action remake this year as well, and like if I had a nickel for every Chris Sanders, Dean DeBois animated movie that's getting a live action remake in 2025, I'd have two nickels, which isn't that much, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one for the Phineas and Ferb fans out there. Keep it on the Disney theme. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's great to be back, and I'm happy to discuss this modern Disney classic with you. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've got a lot of history with it, so I've got a lot to say. I've even watched the crappy ones that they came out with, the straight to DVD.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got deep into the lore, but we'll talk about that a bit later.
Wow, I can't wait.
Yeah. It, yeah, I'll just say it gets nuts because anyways, we own the DVD. I'll get into that later, but before we get into Lilo and Stitch, is there anything you've seen recently that you might want to recommend?
Well, I believe viewers will probably already know this because it's been such a bit of a cultural phenomenon and box office phenomenon, but I'm going to have to go with Sinner. Of course,
Okay,
it's the
yeah.
recent Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan. I'm sure you've all seen it by now because it's been doing phenomenally well. I mean, it's done so well at the box office, and it's already one of the highest acclaimed films of the year, and for good reason. This is a fantastically made, genuinely smart vampire film that you don't really see a lot of nowadays. Like it's. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the film yet as well,
No,
Austin.
no, I
Oh,
haven't.
oh, what one of the very few so far.
Yeah,
But
I'm a victim of rural movie theaters who, as soon as Thunderbolts came out, they kicked it out of all the IMAX theaters.
well, there is a chance to see it again in IMAX because it's coming back for a week just before Mission Impossible comes in. So it definitely check it out in IMAX 70 millimeter if you can, because it's just gorgeous the way it's shot. Autumn Durald Archibald cinematography is just on another level, as is Coogler's direction and the choices he makes in the screenplay. There's so much world building going into this, and I mean, for a film that, when you break it down, it is obviously kind of a bit like From Dusk Till Dawn mixed with Get Out, and I mean that in a very good way. Like, it's a real smart genre filmmaking, and I'm so glad it's found an audience, that it's doing a bit better than like something like Minecraft, which does not deserve that kind of level. But anyway, that's for another whole discussion.
I could have a
So
3 hour
yeah.
podcast on that.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a long one. But no, so yeah, I hate to go with the flock on this one, but yeah, Sinners. If you haven't seen it yet, see it because it definitely deserves your support.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try and get a chance to see it before it leaves theaters, whenever that is. But I think if I had to recommend something, I just saw it yesterday, and this is again a populist choice. I just saw Mickey 17 the other day.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's been out for a while, hasn't it? Is
Yeah,
it beginning of March?
yeah, more yeah, beginning of March, but it entirely missed us in my area. I think it maybe got kicked out of theaters after like a week or two. I forget.
Yeah,
What
because
that was all about.
I know it didn't do particularly well at the box office, so maybe it
Yeah.
just kind of And then of course Warner's like put it on digital pretty soon after. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like $10 to rent right now, which was a huge factor. Other than the fact that I really like, um, I, I got turned on to him with Snowpiercer, and this is very much that era of Bong Joon Ho, where it's you can laugh one moment and then be thinking about the meaning of life and the universe the next. And that sounds like I'm joking, but I'm honestly not joking. It's a very um, interesting film to watch. Yeah, it's fully recommend it at the $10 rental price. It is right now. I I would have loved to maybe seen that in the theater, but circumstances just weren't lined up that way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like the film too. I'm probably not as much as you did. I felt, I mean, I enjoy Bong Joon-ho films as well. Like obviously, Parasite is phenomenal, and Snowpiercer was really great too. That's probably the first time I'd heard of him as well. I mean, I enjoyed I enjoyed the fact that out of everything, it's very much a Bong Joon-ho movie. Like it's definitely got the same pacing, the very same authorial style as Parasite. You can tell putting those movies back to back, you can definitely tell this is the same filmmaker. I just felt, there are aspects to it which I think are really interesting. There's a lot obviously going on with the themes are like colonialism and the exploitation of working class, or all that stuff, and all that. And obviously, Robert Pattinson's great in two ways. It just felt there's a lot of it that's just very heavy-handed, I guess. Obviously, you have the Mark Ruffalo character who, it's very obvious who he's modeling his performance after.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. He's fun in the movie, but it's a very, it's like, it doesn't exactly fit the tone that Bong Joon-ho seems to be going with here. I don't know. I heard apparently that, I mean, Bong Joon-ho's version of the film is what got released, and the version that Warner's wanted to go with was a bit more audience friendly. I don't know. Look, Warner Brothers has made a lot of really dumb decisions over the last few years. I'm still a little curious to see what that studio cut would have been like if it would have flowed a little better, just for comparison's sake. Maybe Bong Joon-ho's is the better one, but for me, I thought Mickey 17 was fine. I didn't really rate that. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars out of 5, which I've been doing a lot more half-star ratings nowadays to keep up with the Letterboxd trend.
Yeah. Keep the curve perfect.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely see a version of that movie being more, I don't know, jokey, which it already kind of is a little bit more than Bong Joon-ho's previous work, even Parasite, which I thought was fairly jokey. It wasn't to this level, but yeah, I could see a studio version of this where it's just, I know people love them, but I don't. A Taika Waititi movie where it just jokes every line.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a line. I think Bong Joon-ho's sense of humor is obviously much drier than someone like Taika Waititi's. I mean, again, I think it all just depends on your personal tastes. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I like the fact that we're kicking off this whole conversation talking about like really grim themes of colonialism and worker exploitation when we're here to talk about a nice, bright Disney film from like 20 or so years ago. Practically the same movie.
Yeah, practically. Yeah. But yeah, those are our recommendations. I think you can see Sinners is obviously in movie theaters. And I'm sure besides rental, since it's a Warner Brothers movie, it'll also come to Max. I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised it isn't already, considering Companion's already on there.
Oh, is it really? Oh, we don't have Max here in the UK, so I don't know that for sure. But yeah, because Max, yeah, Companion was January release, was it? So,
Yeah.
And obviously Mickey 17 was March, so maybe there's still a bit of a gap.
September.
I'm not sure.
Maybe it'll go for September. I don't know. But yeah, it just struck me as weird because I think Companion was February 14th here because I remember them talking a lot about, or I don't know. I can't keep my release date straight when you're trying to keep track of 1,000, literally 1,000 movies. So So,
Yeah,
so
some are
hence,
bound to just slip. Some are just bound to just slip by.
yeah,
Yeah, even the ones that are fairly recent.
yeah. I literally thought Lilo and Stitch, the 2025 remake, was coming out like July 4th weekend or something like that. Because I was like, ah, that
Yeah,
just seems like a July 4th movie, you know?
I can see that. Yeah, like, but at the same time, yeah, because I think that and Mission Impossible, it's around Memorial Weekend, I think, in the
Yeah, that
US.
sounds right.
Yeah, which Memorial Weekend's usually like a really big tentpole week for movies anyway. So either that or July 4th, kind of makes sense for that movie. It's, yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see which one comes out on top with that regard.
But since we're already talking about Lilo and Stitch, let's just transition into our discussion. So, I guess first things first, and this might be the longest part of the conversation. What's your history with the movie? Yeah, like what was your history with Lilo and Stitch?
So I do have a bit of a history with this. So this came out, I believe it came out in the US around August or July, around that's in the summer
Sounds
anyway.
about
And this was a time, this 2002, and this was a time when, Disney was like not releasing everything like day and date worldwide. It would wait like a few months or something. So we got it here in October because October is usually like the time when like kids are off for the week for half term, and so obviously they need a big family film to entertain them for a little while. And so this came out right around my 10th birthday. And I remember taking a bunch of friends to go see it because every year or so I'd like, go watch a new movie, just to celebrate it. And 9/10-year-old me really enjoyed it. Like I think I remember just really falling in love with the energy of this universe. The animation style of is very, very different to what we're used to in like a traditional Disney. There's a lot of things to really like about it, and I watched it only in the last 24 hours, just before recording this, and there's still a lot to really enjoy. But I'm also noticing, as an adult, there's certain things that just kind of go over your head as a kid, like I'm sure we'll get into all this later. It's an interesting it's an interesting mix match because this is not a very traditional Disney film. Like I mean, there's no Disney princesses, there's no like big musical numbers or anything like that. It is just like a straightforward buddy comedy between this young girl and this incredibly destructive alien. And you know what? For the most part, it works because it's charming, it's funny, and it's just in parts really lovely written. That's anyway. That's a bit of a summary of my brief history with the movie.
Yeah, and before we move on to my answer, did you watch any of the sequels or anything like that?
Um, I did when I was younger. I didn't watch any of them before today. I did see Stitch the movie, the Stitch
Hmm.
exclamation point, which is like, I think that's like the intro, like basically the extended pilot to that show they did.
Yeah, yeah.
I did see the Lilo and Stitch 2 Stitch Has a Glitch, one that had Dakota Fanning as Lilo. I did see
Oh
that. I
yeah.
didn't. I didn't see the show. I didn't see the Leroy and Stitch one as well. Yeah, no, so but I am familiar with them. I know that it lasted a fair while. And I remember the basic outline of the series. So and that Leroy and Stitch was like meant to be like a conclusion to that series of sorts. So hell, I even remember at one point there was a crossover between the Lilo and Stitch series and of all things Recess. So
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it?
I mean, what? Disney was just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, wasn't it? Let's put these things that don't belong together whatsoever. Let's put them together. So I guess Recess is in the Lilo and Stitch universe, which
I
I'm cool
guess.
with. Why not? Why not?
I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense. One's in Pittsburgh, one's in Hawaii.
Sure,
Sure,
of
why not?
course. Well, yeah, it's technically not leaving America, so yeah.
Yeah, so you can have your like Disney United States universe or something.
Well, those are crazy times back in the days of Disney.
Yeah, Jimmy Timmy Power Hour on Nick and goodness.
Oh, Jimmy Timmy Power. I know it's a different section. It's like the DC to Disney's Marvel, but
We're really aging ourselves here, I think.
no, there's nothing wrong with it. I enjoy those. I mean, maybe all of you listening, do you remember Jimmy Timmy Power Hour? If so,
Or
give it a
the
thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comments.
yeah, it was nuts. So as for me with Lilo and Stitch, it's interesting because I don't remember seeing it in the theaters, but I know we had the DVD because I'd play it a lot. Like if I did wasn't interested in watching Toy Story that day because I watched Toy Story a lot, um, which I'm probably going to do something for the 30th anniversary. I don't entirely know. It depends on what Disney's going to do. But that other DVD we'd watch a lot would be Lilo and Stitch, and um, interestingly enough, just talking about the state of home media for a second here, it's whenever I write a Disney home media review, that's the one that's like my benchmark because it had you could identify they had like games on it where you could like catch the little Stitch while you're watching the movie. Hit
Yeah.
you'd hit like okay on your remote and it'd give you points and it'd remember that you had a high score or something like that, and it'd ask you to identify all the Easter eggs, and it was jam packed. So that's my first, I think, memory is just the DVD, and I don't know what 8-year-old me thought of it, but I know I just loved that DVD, and I rewatched it less than an hour ago, like literally 20 minutes before we hit record on this. It has no business being as good as it is, because it was kind of what I do remember is it was kind of a straight to it had, at least for me, that straight to video, like, oh, this is just another straight to video thing. Even though I know it was in theaters, it was just like, oh, it's like Emperor's New Groove and stuff like that. It reminded me a lot of that movie where it's irreverent and something Disney very much isn't anymore. I was trying to fit in the new millennium, and I don't know. It's just something about it. It's going back to Mickey 17. It's you're laughing one moment and then be like, yeah, you know, Lilo, it's valid to crash out. You had a bad day, um, and a lot of things are going right, and a lot of things are going wrong. But also, um, maybe Mr. Bubbles could cut them some slack. Maybe he should just explain some things. I think the whole conflict could be
I think yeah, there's a lot to unpack with Cobra Bubbles, who for those don't know, is the quite intimidating social worker. He's voiced by Ving Rhames, and he's got quite a is built basically like Ving Rhames,
yeah.
specifically in Pulp Fiction, which is kind of interesting. Wouldn't that be something if that was just his character from Pulp Fiction? He just decided to just become a social worker, just
I
just go on
believe it.
Hawaii, just cause. I mean,
Yeah.
that'll be awesome. Yeah, that's another universe that Lilo Stitch belongs in now, the Pulp Fiction universe of all things. Technically owned by Disney at the time. So
Yeah, Miramax. They own Miramax.
yeah.
Yeah, and beyond just that movie, I've seen all of it. I saw Leroy and Stitch, Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch has a glitch, Leroy, or yeah, Leroy the movie or something like that. Whatever that Leroy movie was. And then Lilo and Stitch the series was basically the concept was Jumba, Plinky, and Stitch were, I guess, hunting other experiments Jumba made, which you can kind of see in that opening scene where they're like trying, all these imprisoned people. And yeah, it wasn't good, but it was an interesting concept. It was a very serial, both literally, meaning you add a new monster each week. Also, you're eating cereal most of the time while you're watching it. So, it was a nice Saturday morning cartoon. It was nice and jokey. I'd watch that in Buzz Lightyear Star Command back to back.
I think that from what I remember about the Lilo and Stitch series, I mean, it definitely, like you said, goes right along with that Buzz Lightyear cartoon, but also a lot of the other like Disney afternoon shows. Like I think they did one for Aladdin and
Mm-hmm.
all those other ones are like TV spin-offs. They're just kind of like they didn't always have like the most sophisticated animation, especially compared to the films. But obviously it's a different studio and a tighter budget, but Yeah, it's that very episodic feeling of like just they're just going from chasing one experiment after another and all that sort of stuff. So obviously it's not like as sophisticated televisual storytelling as something like Gravity Falls or some of the other later Disney cartoons. It was just something, like you said, it was just there so you could like watch it while you're eating your cereal or something in the morning and just kind of go on about your day. But again, I want to emphasize I am not an expert on this show. I don't really remember much of it. I saw probably a handful of episodes and that's it. So you're probably more an expert than I am.
Yeah, I probably got a little too into the show. Yeah, because I like remember how Leroy was introduced and all that stuff. All this useless brain space taken up by Leroy and Stitch and all that stuff. But
Wasn't
yeah,
there one that was just like his whole personality was just he likes sandwiches?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like every other time he's just like chowing down or something. Like, which like as an adult, I can relate.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do anything. Just shut up and give me a sandwich.
Yeah, it was weird because at the first it was very Pokemon-esque. It was like, oh, this is like the fire type, the water type, the electricity type. And then it was just like, hey, this guy, he likes sandwiches. This guy, he's lazy.
You know what? Pokemon is such a good comparison. I didn't think of that until just now. It is got a very but it's like Disney's version of Pokemon. Yeah, that actually works really well. So that's a good analogy.
Just pulled that right out of the hat, the
Nice.
imaginary hat that you don't see here.
No.
But and maybe we covered this, you know, when it came out. I'd love to hear a little bit about your expectations. I think Emperor's New Groove had also just come out, if I'm not mistaken. What were your expectations then, and what were your expectations on the rewatch?
So back then, yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. Emperor's New Groove was before Lilo and Stitch. I think I can't remember if Atlantis was in the middle of them or was just after. I have a
I think it
feeling
was
that
middle.
Atlantis was right. I have a feeling that Atlantis was right before Lilo and Stitch. So I think in terms of expectations, again, this is like from the perspective of a 9-year-old kid. So, I mean, I think really I remember actually learning about it for the first time. Like, I was in the Disney store and they were like playing the trailer on like the big TV in there, and it's just like,
It's those.
what is going on here? I've never seen anything like this. This looks really cool. Like this alien that can like shapeshift into a dog and is like going just putting a pint ice cream cone on a dog's head or something, and it's just like, wow, this looks really cool. And then after I saw that, because my curiosity was already piqued, then I saw the teaser trailers they put out, which are
Those are so good.
pretty legendary in terms of like what a teaser trailer can be. They just put Stitch in all these classic Disney scenes like Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Lion King, and yeah, I remember they really leaned hard into the fact that wow, like, I remember that poster, all those like old Disney characters like looking in horror, just as like Stitches in the center. So it was like that was the first indication that like, wow, this is going to be unlike anything Disney's ever produced. Like even like the no, if you pick one's like Genius Scared, like what the hell is this thing gonna do? And like then so going into it, I was just thinking like, wow, I think there's gonna be a lot of really cool things that I don't think Disney has ever done. I don't think at that point they'd ever done a proper sci-fi film
I don't think
or
so.
and the setting was unique, Hawaii and the choice of music, Elvis Presley. I mean, it's all really thinking outside the box. And so I really and yeah, just going in to see all that chaos unfold, and for 9-year-old me anyway, it really did. And then all these years later, watching it for this episode, because I remember, watching it and really enjoying it, but it had been obviously a lot of years since I had seen it.
Yeah,
So my
same.
expectations were like I don't remember anything that necessarily dates it, but watching it, I was kind of. I was taken a lot more into just the way that this world is designed more than anything, because it's got very distinct styles, not just for the aliens, but for the humans as well. Like, if you take the character of Lilo, for instance, it's this very slightly unusual thing. Like, obviously, you got the big eyes. There's also a big nose in there as well, and it's the same with a lot of the other characters, like her sister Nani, and the guy who's always on the beach. His ice cream cone just always gets ruined and stuff. So there's a lot of interesting human designs there that really stuck out this time around, because like that's the sort of thing, like as a kid you just kind of like want to see what's happening in the story. You don't really pay attention to stuff like that. And so I mean, I obviously also didn't really notice how quickly the movie goes by. Like, it's only like a that 80-90 minute movie. It goes by fast. Like, I remember noticing this with The Iron Giant as well, which is also another great animated film, but it just zooms by. Like, it's just like, wow, this is, oh, let's steady on there. Let's take a moment to like get these, go and know these characters a bit more, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what my expectations were like in today's world, but I mean, I'm glad I still enjoyed it. It's not. I don't think it's something I'd necessarily like revisit as much as like things like Beauty and the Beast or Lion King. But you know what? I did still find myself enjoying it a fair bit.
Yeah, it's almost like a little treat, a little bit. Like, yeah, I can watch. For me, my treat movie is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. You can only watch that movie so much before it gets kind of irritating. So you can't rewatch
Hmm.
that thing constantly like I would Toy Story, where it'd be every single day. It'd be like, hey, I haven't seen this in a while. Let me throw it on. I think that's very much where Lilo and Stitch sticks for me. Um, because it's like I've seen a lot of Lilo and Stitch, so I don't necessarily need to catch up with them all the time. But yeah, it was a nice little treat, the rewatch was. I did find myself noticing things a little bit more as an adult, not just the themes, obviously, of Ohana, which we'll talk about, but also just noticing kind of the the changes they've made to the movie since saw it last, like the pizza
Hmm.
box with the dryer.
Yeah, there's a point I do remember that so in the, I assumed you watched the version that's on Disney Plus.
Mhm.
So yeah, on there, because I believe in the original version, I think, because this is the point where like Lido's hiding from her sister and she ends up hiding in like an oven or something.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, you know, Disney people thought like, oh wow, this might send a bad message to kids, like hide in ovens and all that stuff. So they just like digitally revised it, so they're like, she's just hiding in like some random cupboard that like a pizza box is used as the door. So it's a little clunky, I'm not gonna lie, because it's not the sort of, I mean, Lilo, it seems a very resourceful character, but even she would kind of struggle to improvise that much in that moment with that kind of like pizza box as the door kind of thing. So that kind of threw me out just a little bit, but like, yeah, I'm willing to let that slide, because the alternative is probably not as good, if not much worse.
Yeah, so I really, and like you, I really didn't have a lot of expectations other than to just have fun, right? Because I think something I've realized, well, I'm sure you realize it too. When we do this job, there's that critic part of the brain that you can't turn off. So it's nice to have those movies where you can just be like, let me just let me just have fun. I just want to have fun and not think about, hey, that blending, that picture changes assets every 2 to 3 frames. Because you do notice that if you start looking at it critically. But yeah, I just had fun. I think that would be the sum of my experience and really my expectation is just I want to have fun. I know Stitch is going to give me a good time because I loved it when I was a kid. So why wouldn't I love it as an adult? Especially
Yeah,
considering the themes are more adult oriented.
absolutely. I mean, Lilo and Stitch always felt like a movie that was just made directly for kids. I mean, when you think about it, the plot is very straightforward. I mean, it's not, I mean, there are a lot of, it is playing around with a lot of heartfelt themes and stuff, but the crux of it, it is a very it is a very like kid child centric story. Like obviously one of the main characters of the title is a child, so that right there is just like, okay, yeah, this is much more directed towards children more than anything. Which of course Disney is always going to be focused on children, but like this is the first one I felt that really kind of put them first in that regard, just in terms of like the pure target audience. I mean, families can enjoy it as well. Adults can like it just fine. But I think I mean, maybe that's why it really resonated with us as kids, because it was really kind of like this imaginative concept. What if like a kid adopts a dog who happens to be an alien, and it just kind of runs with it in its own way. It's a very a bit of like a um oh, what's the phrase? Um blanking on it right now. What's the phrase where it's like a wish fulfillment? That's it. Sorry, it's wish fulfillment for kids, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense.
You see it.
So now that we've kind of, laid the scene, let's dive a little bit deeper. I'd love to talk a little bit about the animation style. It's very watercolor inspired. So how does that style work for you in this movie?
It works very well. I remember, even as a kid, I remember it being quite striking. It definitely felt very handcrafted in a way. Like, I think that there's so much detail in the backgrounds, just like the little forests and the woods, or even the oceans, surrounding this Hawaiian island. It is very unique, and I really think it was quite a major stylistic nudge in the right direction, for a studio that had honestly been relying a lot on its own traditional in-house stuff. I mean, you can definitely tell there's still some experimentation with like early years CGI and stuff, but very faintly, like mainly in like the scene set in space. But
Yeah.
we are mainly on the Hawaiian Islands, and it definitely really strikes. It's quite beautiful to look at, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. And that account every frame of painting, or I forget what the actual name is, but basically the same concept. I would love to like go through and like pause every now and then and just stare at it. It's just so wonderful to look at because it has this nice foreground and background separation. Like all the important details are like very, very insanely detailed, and you're like, oh wow, this just looks cool. But then you look at the background and you're like, oh, there's stuff happening back there too. That's really cool, and it all looks. I mean, every frame of painting. In this case, probably very literally. I'm sure they probably did a flipbook style animation for this, obviously in computers, but you know what I mean.
It definitely felt that they were relying a lot more on like the older style of like cell animation style, like how they did in like the early years of Disney, like Snow White, Pinocchio, all that stuff. But obviously, this is one's tackling a very different type of style. Like, I mean, as far as I remember, I don't remember Snow White or Pinocchio, Dumbo, all those early ones not having like backgrounds as like as much of a painting as this one, because they literally are paintings. They were obviously crafted by hand, and then obviously with the characters in the foreground, but it's so seamlessly put together. It really does. In a way, it feels very 3D. Like,
Yes.
you could almost like see yourself just wandering around in these backgrounds and just taking in every little a piece of greenery and water, just everything. It's a very immersive world in that way, I feel.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It almost felt like, you talked about CG earlier. It's like almost trying to meet you halfway there, where it's like, yeah, this isn't CG, but we're going to give you the illusion of depth here.
Yeah, because it came more than a decade after Great Mouse Detective, which, as we know, had that sequence in the clock tower, Big Ben. And that was very much an early example of CGI background with 2D characters in the foreground. And it was quite revolutionary then, but I think they were still at a point where they were still not entirely sure how to implement it. I mean, only a few years later would they really kind of go full CGI with something like Chicken Little. But I mean, less said about that one, the better. But I
Thank you.
mean, yeah. But we also have to remember, it wasn't just Pixar that was, doing all this stuff with computers and really revolutionizing the game, but also like DreamWorks was also
Yeah.
doing its own thing. I mean, at this point, I think they were still doing their own like 2D animated stuff, like Road to El Dorado and Prince of Egypt, stuff like that. And I think obviously then Sinbad came along and then kind of sank that to the ground. Yeah, so it's interesting seeing this kind of animation style be utilized at a point when even Disney themselves weren't entirely sure what to do with themselves. Because I mean, obviously Pixar at this point is really kind of picking up steam. They're really becoming the go-to animation studio, even though Disney would go on to own it, and they also had that distribution deal at the time. So I think it's very much a way of like trying something different while also keeping to that somewhat traditional Disney structure. So I really felt like the animation style really kind of lends its own purpose in that way.
Yeah, I mean, agree. And it's one of the, I think, the last big Disney animated movies before they fully were like, okay, 3D is the way to go.
Yeah, because I think after Lilo and Stitch, what was there? There was Treasure Planet, which
Mhm.
incorporates a lot more CGI in the backgrounds and stuff, and then Home on the Range, which did not do well at all. And then
Yep.
they did a little. They, like you said, Chicken Little. Less said about that, the better.
Thank
And
you.
then a few years later, they tried doing like traditional 2D animation once again with the Princess and the Frog, and it didn't do well at all. I mean, it made fine, but it wasn't like blockbuster amount, and that
Yeah.
kind of to date, that is, I believe, the last 2D animated Disney film to be released theatrically. So, or at least the one of the official ones. I don't know if there's been some in since then, but anyway, Princess and the Frog was the last big Disney 2D film to be released, and its underperformance meant that they had to go the CG route all the way because that's the only way to keep up. And then obviously they hit it big with Tangled and then Frozen, and they just went from there, really.
And yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And then I know we kind of talked about this earlier with Ving Rhames, but who are your standout voice performers? I think I know who it is, but go
I
ahead.
think I'm fairly confident we have the same answer. I don't know for a fact, but I'm going to have to say Standout for me. Again, I don't know how to pronounce her name. I don't, so forgive me if I'm butchering this. Evie Chase as Lilo is the standout for me. I remember this was a great child performance. It's a great child character as well. It's very odd, very kooky, very weird. Davy Chase. Again, I hope that's how you pronounce her name because I feel bad if it isn't how you pronounce it. But she really kind of brings out the. I wouldn't say it's precociousness. I'd just say it's just a kid being weird, which is what kids are really when you think about it.
Yeah.
Kids are weird. They're the good kind of weird. The kind that just kind of like embracing very strange things and don't really know much about themselves yet to really kind of be self-aware. And I feel like Lilo is a perfect representation of that. She's just a character who just does not care. She will just like lash out at anyone who like badmouths her. She'll just like flaunt her ugly looking doll around like it's the best thing in the world. And she just sees the goodness in everyone, even someone like Stitch. So, and I feel that Davy Chase really brought that out. I thought it was a very impressive, just before all around performance. And what's interesting is because I think that same year she was also in another animated film, the English dub of a little film called Spirited Away, which, funnily enough, both films were nominated for the animated film Oscar, and Spirited Away won. So I think that was a real breakthrough moment for this actor. I can't remember if she's done anything since. I know she was in Donnie Darko as well. And funny enough, I think she was also in that sequel, S Darko. But
Yeah.
I don't know if she's done anything else since then, honestly. But whatever she's doing, I hope she's well and leading a good life and everything. But in terms of like performances as a child, yeah, this is definitely the one that really puts her on the map, as it were.
So mine is a little different.
Oh, okay.
I really like. Oh, I gotta look up the Kevin McDonald as Plinky.
Oh, yeah.
With the close second being the voice actor for Jumba.
David Ogden Stiers, yeah.
Yeah, because I just love how theatrical they are in an otherwise just like plain Jane by the book sci-fi film. They're just being, Jumba has a Russian accent for whatever reason. In fact, the Disney Plus subtitles were like said something like off-brand Russian accent or something like that. I forget exactly the phrasing. I wish I'd taken a note of it, but I hope they do that in the live action movie, by the way. I feel like
But
that's kind of his character if you don't do that. But anyways, I just loved how theatrical Plinky is. He's basically just a walking squid that, yeah, he's just fun. And I think even, 20 years later, just having that against, a kid who's crashing out, a social services worker who's a bit too strict, and, just insurmountable odds. I think, strangely enough, they're the most entertaining part of it.
yeah, well, I mean, I get where you're coming from in that regard. What the character obliquely. I mean, I'll confess something. I mean, upon this rewatch, I actually found Pleakley kind of annoying.
That's okay.
I don't know. There was, I mean, there's something about like the way the way he was delivering the lines. Like, it was very like heightened, very like you said, very theatrical, very overplayed. Which, I mean, I don't really entirely see it for this particular character. I see this character is obviously introduced as like this quote unquote expert on Earth, and he's got this whole thing about mosquitoes being an endangered species, and I can see someone like taking like a more like a kind of like a straight man kind of approach to that with like someone like Jumbo, who is this meant to be this very theatrical character, because obviously he's a mad evil genius scientist, so that works for that character. I never felt it really worked as well for Pleakley. I just felt he was just kind of loud and low-volume obnoxious, like really trying to make the kids laugh. And I'm not sure that was necessarily the right direction for that particular character. But, he does have a couple of funny moments. So I'll give him that at the very least. There are way more annoying characters in the Disney canon than him.
I think my headcanon was the reason he's acting out of this way because you do see him more calm and collected in the beginning. So it's like Jumba's just doing all these things and he's like, this is so out of control, so I'm just gonna be out of control. In the most ostentatious way. So that's my take on it.
That's fair. Like, I mean, I don't know. I always felt, that particular dynamic would have worked better if, like, Pleakley was like the straight man figure, and then Jumbo was the one just being crazy and stuff. Because I mean, that's how the characters, supposedly written. That they just happen to go a different direction with it in the voice department.
Like, while we're on this topic, that makes me think about the live action movie. Do you think they go with that characterization for the live action movie?
So in the new version, so Jumbo and Pleakley, they're played by Zach Galifianakis and Billy Magnussen. And so Billy Magnussen is an interesting choice because he is a very funny actor. Like, I've seen him be very good and stuff, and he's obviously knows when to get a good laugh. I can see his kind of mannerisms working for a character like Pleakley because in the animated version, obviously, like we said, he is very, animated, very theatrical, and I'm not sure that necessarily made the best pairing in the animated version. I can see Pleakley under Billy Magnussen being much more of a straight man, whereas Zach Galifianakis might be given more moments to, be kind of like much crazier and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know for a fact. I mean, maybe it's just the same mannerisms again. They just happen to be live action people, which in the trailers it looks like they're disguising themselves as actual humans. under like hologram technology or whatever. Whereas in the original, obviously they're just dressing up, and
Yeah.
Pleakley's dressed as a woman, and Jumbers doesn't really do it. It's just like wearing a fake mustache, and that's kind of the joke in and of itself. But obviously, it being a remake, I mean, certain things don't necessarily work in reality, so they kind of have to go a different direction, which I respect. But as long as it's like does its own thing, which it probably won't, but whatever. But hopefully, I'll give it a new twist on that dynamic at the very least.
Crossed. But yeah, I just wanted to ask about that really quick because my thought was just like maybe they tone it down like they did for Lion King and a bunch of other ones. But then I think, we're talking about Billy Magnuson, and he was the best thing about Aladdin to the point where they
Yeah. Oh,
were making a spin-off with
yeah,
him,
yeah, that's right. He was in Aladdin, wasn't he? Yeah,
and then it got
I keep
canceled.
keep forgetting that movie exists. He was in that, and I
So
think
does
they did.
Disney.
And yeah, they I remember that. Yeah, they were talking about like doing a spin-off or like a show, I think, around his
Mhm.
character for some reason. But yeah, I don't think that ever materialized into anything. So, which probably for the best. But yeah, no, I completely forgot he was in Aladdin. So who knows? Maybe it's the same character. You never know. I don't know. That's just my headcanon talking. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about that particular casting? Billy Magnuson as Pleakley and Zach Galifianakis as Jumba. Do you think that could work?
I think that could verge on annoying very
Okay.
quickly. I think it's interesting because I think it'll flip-flop where instead of being theatrical, it's just going to be the exact criticism you have of the 2002 movie, where it's like, okay, yeah, it's theatrical, but it's also annoying. And I think the difference is this Lilo and Stitch. I guess we're fully talking about Lilo and Stitch 2025 now, but I do think it's important because I do think there are going to be differences.
Oh yeah.
But uh, I think they know that this is going to be aimed for adults who watched the 2002 one, because otherwise you wouldn't have Roller Coaster Ride in the trailer. You wouldn't have what was the big thing? Oh, they recreated all the marketing stuff that you were talking about earlier with like when they did Mufasa posters, they also did Lilo and Stitch invading those posters and
Hmm.
a few others. I forget which posters, but recent releases.
No, I think obviously it's a different approach to this one. I think in the teasers for the original, they actually did put Lilo and Stitch in those actual scenes, like had him interact with the characters, and so whereas the newer ones, it just it feels like okay, they've got the imagery down, they've got the tone down. Like they did one like parodying like Moana 2, and then there was another one with Mufasa that came out. It wasn't quite like the same because I mean Stitch wasn't like actively interrupting their movie. It was just like designed to feel like Moana 2 or Mufasa. And then like you said, that poster I mentioned, the one that has all the Disney characters like looking in horror at Stitch as he's just kind of there. And the poster for this one, it's not quite the same because now he's just interacting with a whole bunch of Disney owned properties. Like he's owning a lightsaber or
Yeah.
one of the Iron Man helmet or all these are like it's I don't know it's very I think that's very telling. Whereas the original poster, it's very much focusing on Disney's legacy as the maker of all these classic stories we all know and love. And then the one today is just kind of like, this is what Disney is now. It's just this massive monopoly that owns nearly everything under the Hollywood sun. And it's not quite as whimsical. It's a lot more corporate, and which it's far be it from me to be the first one to say, "Oh, Disney's just doesn't care about storytelling anymore, and it's all just about like putting bums in seats, playing on what's popular, remaking all these." Animated movies, even though no one asked for them or stuff. It's all just about money now, and
Yeah.
that's the cynical part of me talking. And I always want to give Disney the benefit of the doubt because every now and then they can still put out a good thing, but like yeah, like the last few years especially, have not been. I mean, I'm not even talking about like Marvel or Star Wars in particular, just just Disney itself
Yeah.
has really kind of become a lot more soulless, I guess. There's none of that magic there. I mean, the last few remakes, I mean, Mufasa, I didn't think was particularly impactful, and I was one of the few people who thought Snow White was okay, but could still point out a whole load of things that were wrong with it. Rachel Zegler's not one of them, by the way. I mean, she's probably the best part of that movie. Yeah, no, there's none of that spark there. And even in their more original things like Strange World and especially Wish, it's just you can tell there's no real creativity behind it. It's just what does the chart say? What does the chart indicate that needs to happen at this point? It's all very mechanical now, and I wish that someone would come in and really create maybe like a second Disney Renaissance, the kind of that brought in the classics that we know today, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, just
Yeah.
yeah, I really wish, Disney would kind of have that moment again, because I really feel creatively it's on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yeah. I'll just say this. I don't this may put me on the outs with a lot of people, but I hate that they're using the same animation style across every single one of their 3D animated films. It's everything looks the same. Like Strange World looks like Encanto. Encanto looks like Soul to a certain extent. Soul looks like Luca, and well, I understand why Soul looks like Luca, but it just the models look the same. Anyways, I'm getting a bit ranty. Um, but yeah, I think they need to take risks. Disney needs to take risks. And my jokey risk here is if they really want to go for the adults, don't just aim at the Disney properties. Put Stitch in Poor Things, or like put him in a rated R.
Yes.
Movie.
Put him in Alien or Predator.
Yeah.
Die Hard. Or Die Hard.
There you go,
God,
Disney.
can you imagine? Can you
Free
imagine
ideas.
like Stitch just going on that rope at the end and just like pushing Hans Gruber off the side of the building? Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing.
Oh my god! Just the idea of Stitch invading the world of Poor Things just cracks me up because
There's a reason I picked that specific movie.
just him awkwardly walking in on Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo, just like, oh yeah, I'll come back later. Oh my god, that would actually be kind of original. Now thinking about it, that would have actually been kind of, hey, maybe Disney should hire us as marketing executives now because
there you go. We're giving
we
you
can apparently come up with better
ideas.
stuff than they can.
Put them in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, well, do they own
I don't know.
I
I
don't
was
think
just thinking.
I don't think they Disney owns Pulp Fiction anymore. I think it's on like Paramount now.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot they sold. Yeah. Yep. You're
They
right.
sold Miramax for obvious reasons. They sold it to I think other companies. I think Paramount was one of them. I think because I know Pulp Fiction's on Paramount Plus now, at least in the UK.
Okay.
So that would make a lot of sense. But I mean, for the rest, maybe they're still under the Disney banner or Touchstone or something like that. But Miramax, I believe, has been outsourced to other studios. But I get what you're saying in that regard. Yeah, that would just be you know what, if they actually did have the balls to put the Stitch in like Alien or Poor Things or Die Hard, that would be 200 million opening weekend guaranteed. I promise you that.
Like that. Just the marketing alone would do its job.
Yeah,
You don't even have to. You don't even have to say Lilo and Stitch. You could just put like release scenes leading up to the release of like, here's him in Alien, here's him in Indiana Jones, here's him in Avengers Infinity War getting snapped away by Thanos.
It's just, I mean, like, if that happened, like, yeah, you thought Sinners was a box office phenomenon. I mean, you had no idea what Lilo and Stitch would be capable of if it went that route. But obviously
Stitch
not.
and Sinners. Put Stitch in Sinners.
Well, that there might
Josh
be
Allen's
some,
gonna make it.
there might have to be some studio synergy on that regard
Yeah.
because, but you know what, you know, if it puts bums in the seats, go for it. Yeah, just see Stitch taking on Jack O'Connell and the vampires. So, but no, of course they're not doing that. They're just kind of again like a lot of the marketing for these things. They really are just kind of like banking on the nostalgia people have for the original, which to a point I do understand. You know, nostalgia is such a huge factor now in what people want to see. You know, like all this remaking all this old IP and stuff. And I mean, as a from a financial prospect, you know, I get it. It makes sense, you know, people wanting to go see something like that rather than something more original, which, you know, I don't even know if that argument holds water anymore in this post Sinners world.
Yeah.
But even still, like, I feel like, yeah, because but it's really just, I mean, beyond the fact that, you know, they make money anyway, but I mean, some of them do anyway. I know Snow White lost a lot of money at the box office, but I think, I don't know, it's all just about the quality. I mean, if you're going to remake a film that everyone knows and loves, like Beauty and the Beast, for example, I mean, you've got to do more than just, oh, it's just the original again, but now they're all real people. You know, like
Yeah.
actually do something. Because I will say that the best Disney remake so far is The Jungle Book because
I
they
walked
are
out of that the first
really
time. I walked
okay.
out. I was
Okay.
so well, it's my own podcast, I can swear. I was so pissed. I was just like,
Okay.
because Jungle Book is one of my favorite animated movies of all time, but
Oh,
outside of like
really?
Toy Story. Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
watched it a ton as a kid. And when I saw now, why am I thinking Liam Cohen? Oh, Christopher Walken. Do I want to be like you? I was like, all right, that's it. I'm out.
I no, you know what? Okay, like if you're a fan of the original Jungle Book and obviously going seeing that film, seeing how it does its own thing, like, I get it. I mean, I'd probably be pissed too. I mean, the thing is for me, I mean, Jungle Book. I mean, I definitely watched it a lot as a kid, but like it was never like one that I would like religiously watch. I mean, it's fun, you know, obviously the bare necessities and all that. I mean, that's the song I loved growing up and still do. You know, I always felt that the 2016 version, I mean, I know you'll disagree, but I always felt they really amped up the storytelling of it because in the original
Oh yeah.
it's fairly episodic and like, you know, it is just Mowgli and going around like encountering all these characters, you know, going first with Bagheera, then Kaa, then Baloo, King Louie, all that stuff. And in the newer version, I will say they really kind of gave it more of an arc. There was much more dramatic depth to the characters. It did, and it definitely did that while still, you know, every now and then paying homage to the original. I just felt it did it a lot better than a lot of the other Disney remakes, which is interesting because Jon Favreau also directed the Lion King remake, which was pretty much shot for shot the original film. And that's, I don't know, again, going a bit off topic, but like that's one of the reasons why I'm not as excited as I probably should be for How to Train Your Dragon, because it just looks the exact same. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I do
Shot for
not
shot.
it's shot for shot. And like they're going the full psycho with it, Gus Van Sant's version. Like, and it's the same director as well. So I mean, like, just what's the point? What is the point of spending all this money, you know, going through all this effort to just make something beat for beat that, you know, animators did much better 15 years ago? I mean, a Lilo and Stitch, I will give a leeway because, you know, it has been like 20 years since
Yeah.
the original, so a new version, you know, okay, I can see that kind of existing to an extent. But How to Train Your Dragon, not only is it more recent, but it's still fresh in a lot of people's minds. Like, why go through that effort just to make it look the exact same, except they're now real?
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's
the
where, you know, I think live action remakes really stumble, and I really hope that if they are going to continue this trend, which it doesn't look like they are since Snow White just underperformed, but if they are going to go that route, you know, just do something different. Don't lean into people's nostalgia for the original. Just do your own thing. Don't be so held back by what audiences' expectations. Just take, like you said, take risks. Do something different. Like, I mean, Strange World, even for all its faults, tried something different. It didn't always work, but it was different. Then Wish came along, and it was the opposite of risks. It was such a bland, safe excuse for a movie, and that for that to be celebrating Disney's 100th anniversary. All I'll say is it definitely showed its age.
Yeah, but yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that was my extended rant on live action remakes, and
Oh, you're good.
not very good.
You're in good company here. The last one I watched, the Disney live action remake, was Lion King. I believe that was the last one before Mufasa, right?
Lion King was 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the last one I watched, and I knew I was going to hate it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to Alamo Drafthouse where they serve drinks. Take with that what you will. It was a good time that way.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's definitely hated among a lot of people, and yeah, but I will say on a slight tangent with the reaction to the live action Lion King. Like I've seen a lot of critics that I do, or at least used to admire, really kind of like being very vocal about their hate for that movie in a way that really came up as vindictive and really kind of demonizing the audience who did like it. Like, okay, you can have opinions or that are different, and that's fine. You can like something that others don't like, or you can not like the other things that people like, and that's absolutely fine. Just don't be a dick about it, like don't make people feel bad for like enjoying or applauding a movie that you hate. Like, and I feel that's are you aware of a critic called Doug Walker?
Yeah. I stopped following them when all that stuff started going down.
Yeah, no, I mean you're not missing much since, but yeah, his quote unquote review for it was just really one of the nastiest things I've ever seen. Like, it really made me feel like I'd just been verbally abused for like 40 minutes just because, he happened to be in a movie that he hated, like hated with a passion, and then went off on the audience that did obviously enjoyed it more than him, and just called him like creepy, and just like, it's just not what. How can you like this? It's just like, okay, when it comes to critics, I am always like, I'm always done with them as soon as they start berating other people's opinions.
Yeah.
Like, that was really the moment that I just kind of like lost it with him. Like, because I didn't like the movie either, but I'm not a dick about it,
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, that's just the kind of hatred that I that's inspired that kind of that I really don't like, and I just try and like I'm always the type of person to really kind of take it with the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to go in like wanting to hate it, and some of the most times I'm just fine with it. In one ear out the other, all that stuff. Just don't be a dick to people who do like these movies. Yeah, you can hate them all you want. Just respect other people's opinions. That's all I'm putting out there. It's basic courtesy.
Yeah, I think film criticism or just entertainment in general, I think would be so much more boring if it was just one opinion. Like, oh, you're not allowed to like or you're not allowed to like Star Wars Rebels because it's a kids show. Right.
I mean, hell, I've gotten flack for thinking Rise of Skywalker was fine. I don't think it's a great movie. It's the weakest of the sequels, but
it's aggressively fine.
Yeah, yeah. It's what it is. I mean, you can hate it all you want. I don't care. Just don't come after me for not thinking it's awful.
Yeah, and I'll just repeat what you said. It's very much my philosophy when writing a review. I come in with zero expectation. I just read the log line and say, if I love it, I love it. I'm just going to give my honest opinion, but I'm not going to be mean, right? Because I hate writing bad reviews. I'll take this moment to kind of assuage some fears about the things I've heard about film criticism, and then we'll get back to Lilo and Stitch. I promise, everyone.
Sorry, we've gone off a bit of a tangent here, but please go on. Go on.
But we critics do not like writing bad reviews. And by bad reviews, I mean we don't like saying something is bad because we know what 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, multiple people have worked on just one department of a film, and it is incredibly hard to get a movie made, especially now. If you're making like an independent movie, yeah, you can, make it with a 5-man crew, a 5-person crew, but you're going to need ostensibly more resources if you want to make anything more than short. You're going to need at least 20, 50 people sometimes. So, yeah, it's just, there's a lot of manpower behind that, and I respect that. And with every word I write in my review or think about, even, I'm like, is that fair? Is that fair to the people who have made this film, who spent a year or 2 years on this film? And if it's not, it gets cut. Because even with my New Mutants review, which admittedly is a bit harsher than it probably should have been, I tried to be courteous because I know New Mutants came out at a weird time for X-Men and Fox, and a lot of weird stuff was happening in the background. So I don't fault anybody for that. Same thing with Spiral from the book Saw. Any bad movie, there are circumstances that the filmmaker, producers can't control. And so I feel like it's my job to, when something is bad, like Drop, um, to sit back, literally, and just think, okay, how can I be measured in my analysis of this movie? Anything more than that, anything more harmful than that, is just gonna make somebody mad, or B, just ruin their experience with filmmaking. Because I've experienced it before. I've gotten negative emails. I'm sure you have too, Jack. And that's not an email we ever like to get. Is I really tried hard. I spent 5 years of hard work into this movie. It happened with The Damned. Well, I can't reveal what it's about, but it's a monster movie, and it was a very bad monster movie. But I never took it to task for that. It was trying its best, and as long as somebody's trying their best, good. I appreciate it. Well, anyways, that's a long way to say we don't like writing bad reviews.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely on the money there. Yeah, I second everything you just said. It's it's our job, but it does. I mean, when we see like something really subjectively bad, like Minecraft movie, it's fun to write about how much that movie doesn't work, but at the back of your mind, we are always thinking like, I don't want to like hurt anyone's feelings. I mean, as bad as this movie is, I mean, there are actual people that worked on it. There are people who obviously had passion for this movie, even if it doesn't show in the final movie. And you want to be as fair as you can, but in cases like Minecraft, I just couldn't. I remember really going off on that one, and but it's not something we don't like. This isn't like some sadomasochistic thrill. Like, we don't get off on the fact that we're giving something a bad review. It's just unfortunate, and we do have empathy for the people that obviously put their heart and soul into it. Yes, the fact is, it just happens to be our job to say what does and doesn't work about a film, and sometimes, unfortunately, we have to, like you said, we have to be honest about our opinions, and if we aren't, then we're just going to be a very boring society.
Yeah. And on that note, about Minecraft, I think, as much as I rag on it being a bad, horrendous movie, it's a miracle it's even made, right? Because Minecraft is a game without a story. Now, don't come at me, Minecraft lore people. I know there's a background story that Mojang has made sense. But core does not have a story. We're walking around building bricks. Making any of that into a cohesive movie, well, maybe it's not cohesive, but into
I
something
think that's very debatable.
yeah, it's debatable, but still, just making that movie and having it, be a movie at all, not getting canceled or written off. In the case of, since it is a Warner Brothers movie,
Yeah.
it is a miracle. Yeah, this ends the rant section of the podcast.
Yeah, no, no. I think it's worth saying these things out loud, and it does again tie into Lilo and Stitch. Just I mean, because I know there are people who don't like the original film that much, and people have
Really?
kind of gone. Yeah, I mean, there are a few people that don't consider it actually one of Disney's least best films, and
Oh,
I mean, I don't personally agree with that, but I mean, I'm not the type of person to really challenge that. I'm always like, hey, you do you, man. Like,
yeah.
you believe whatever you want to believe. It always comes down to a religion, in a sense. Like, you believe what you want to believe. Like, you know. If you wanna say like Merry Christmas, I'll say Merry Christmas back. If you want to say Happy Hanukkah, I'll say Happy Hanukkah. And if you say fuck you, I'll say fuck you too. So yeah, yeah. But sorry for the swearing, but yeah,
Oh, you're
I
good.
just had to get my point across.
Point made. But yeah, it's surprising to hear some people don't like Lilo and Stitch. I haven't met people like that, but I'm sure there are people out there.
Yeah, to a point, I can kind of see it because from a structural standpoint, like I said, it is very fast paced, and there isn't always a lot of time to really get to know a lot of these characters. Like, I think David, who comes in now, he's like the love interest for Nani, and he's just kind of there. He's like an attractive, like hopeless romantic, but
Yeah.
he's really that's really just his only beat in the movie. He's not really developed beyond that, and I always felt like Captain Jumbo uh at the end was kind of a weak villain. Like,
Hmm.
it is a very one-dimensional, like evil big alien bad that just kind of comes in at the end and just kind of does villainous things and then just buggers off again. Yeah, so I can see why some people are kind of like losing interest in that climax, because we suddenly have a villain when the film, or it kind of didn't really need a villain that much, like. So, and because I know that the climax of the film was heavily reworked. I mean, because originally I think that the whole plane, I mean, we're getting a little bit into spoilers, but like that part at the end, where they're just like flying through like the mountains and the valleys and stuff, that apparently that was originally animated to take place in a city.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this is 2002, less than a year after other flying objects in a city caused international havoc. So, needless to say, Disney decided to change that at the last minute. So, which again, probably for the best, because Lilo and Stitch is a movie that doesn't need that kind of climax. But
Yeah.
they reworked it, so they did what they could.
Especially when they make a note about like, hey, there's no major cities.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
it'd be weird to just suddenly go from a fairly secluded Hawaiian island to just like a big metropolis. So, which again, less than a year after those events, would have been very awkward to say the least. But I
yeah, and
mean,
you can see the finished version, I think, online. Think somebody released the version where they're flying through the city, so you can see it if you want. It doesn't make sense, but you can see it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's out there, so I'm sure it's on YouTube or somewhere.
Yeah,
But
that's where I saw it.
hmm. I'm curious whether all these years later, are there any things that you didn't like about the film?
Yeah, so I think David is my biggest concern, really, and I hope that's what gets fixed in the live action remake. Is he does feel kind of just like a doofus. He's just like, oh, just kind of a cardboard cutout person. Like, he doesn't really ever get a character. We just know he likes to surf, he likes to spin fire, and he likes Nani. Those are the three qualities he has and nothing more.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, it is a very like stark, bumbling love interest character, and again, I felt the film didn't necessarily need that. Maybe as like a foil for Nani, but they rarely have like screen time together. So
Yeah.
yeah, I always felt that was kind of like a just an unnecessary add-on. Even as a kid, I always felt I never saw the point of him.
Speaking of add-ons, I'm glad you mentioned this. Did that credit sequence always exist? Where David and Nani are going on the trip to like Graceland and things like that? Did that always exist, or is that new?
I don't know. Again, it's been years since I saw the original cut of the films, but I don't know. I might have done. I mean, who knows? This might be Disney trying to gaslight us. This is like, no, this was always here the whole time.
Because I genuinely don't remember. I think I would have remembered a credit sequence where they go to Graceland of all things.
Well, I mean, that's just like it's like a still image in the film. It's like a montage of like photos and stuff. But that's a good point. Like, I mean, I always knew that particular like montage was at the end of the film, but I mean, I can see why they went to Graceland because of course Elvis is a big
Yeah.
part of the movie, but I genuinely don't remember if it was in the original or not. Anyone who's listening in the comments, do you remember if that
Yeah.
Graceland image was in the original cut? Yeah, if so, please let Austin and I know, please. Our lives depend on it. Our sanity
Yeah.
depends on it.
Really, because I was thinking, I got to the credit sequence and I'm like, I've seen this movie at least 20 times. I do not remember this.
Yeah, no, no. Again, this is Disney's own revisionist thumb hard at work again. It's a slight form of gaslighting in that regard.
And I wonder which. Anyways, this is getting a little in the weeds, but I wonder if the 4K version has already been uploaded to Disney Plus, and that's the one I watched because they're releasing the 4K re-release of Lilo and Stitch, which is why we're talking about this.
Okay.
Other than the 2025 remake, which I'd love to have you on if you want. But I just wonder. Just a little thought. Wonder if they already updated the version on Disney Plus to be that 4K remaster because it did look a little crisper than I remember.
I mean, obviously you pay more attention to that sort of stuff than I do, but I mean, I always felt like I mean, the version I watched, it seemed fine. Like it seemed like clear and stuff, but maybe I just thought that was because I was watching it on a 4K TV.
Fair.
It's hard to say really. I mean they might have. I mean they don't really like announce that they're making these big uploads onto Disney Plus, but if that was the case, it wouldn't entirely surprise me. But yeah, who's to say?
Yeah, and to be fair, the last time I saw Lilo and Stitch, CRTs were still a thing. So
And obviously, when I saw it in the cinema, that's just still when they had the classic 35mm projector. So
yeah,
obviously that made a huge difference.
yeah, but I guess kind of going back a little bit. What did you think of the film's themes of Ohana? You know, they talk about Ohana. I wish I'd written the quote down, but Ohana means family is never left behind or forgotten and remembered.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. Pretty much, yeah, pretty much on those lines. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the film does deal with some themes of Lilo and her sister are grieving the death of their parents, which from the sounds of it, it sounds like it was fairly recent in the story. And obviously, Nani is doing everything she can to keep Lilo in her guardianship, and obviously Cobra comes in and gives her a limited amount of days, otherwise he's going to take her away to live with a foster family. And it is very, I mean, I remember as a kid just kind of like being quite taken aback by the way in which they are bringing a whole new concept to the idea of family, because I mean, because these are sisters who have gone through a very big loss, and they are really kind of dealing with it in their own sisterly way. And it's an interesting way of saying, like, even though they quarrel and then they fight and all this stuff, I mean, they always are looking out for each other. They always usually put their own siblings first because they are family. They are Ohana. Then you have Stitch come in, who is this absolute force of chaos and destruction. Even Lilo, I mean, Nani, it takes a little bit longer for her to kind of get round to him, but Lilo immediately kind of sees him as family. And when they try and say like, "Oh, we're getting rid of him as soon as we get him," she hits her immediately with that Ohana line, and yeah, it's quite powerful. Just the notion that there is no such thing as like a set family unit. You can have like biological like siblings, mothers, fathers, and all stuff, but it's also about the surrogate families that you build together. And that's one of the things I think really works about that final montage at the end, fake or not fake Graceland picture involved. You see all of them, all these characters. Again, spoilers. So apologies for anyone who's not seen the film. Spoilers. They're all the main characters. Lilo, Stitch, Honey, David, Jumba, Pleakley, even Cobra, which I thought was kind of funny. All just kind of like bonding together as a family, doing stuff on Halloween and dancing at luau's and visiting Graceland, and it's a really sweet kind of thing to close out on because it really just drives home the fact that family or Ohana or however you want to phrase it isn't always just limited to blood. Like it can really kind of be family can just be whoever you want it to be. So that's what I really take away from that. And I think it handles those themes really well.
Yeah, I teared up a few times. I was like, "Oh, this is really touching for, what is this ostensibly a kids film." I know people use that as a derogatory term, but I mean, really, this is made for uh kids, and I'm just like, "Oh, I'm really feeling for this dynamic of this sister-sister relationship because it felt very realistic and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like the Ohana theming of it was, I view it as like an unbreakable bond, which I think is just such a beautiful and poignant thing, for, again, I'm gonna bring up the kids' film thing, but a poignant, theme to bring up, for kids, who are probably watching this, who are like 5, maybe not watching us. I hope 5-year-olds aren't watching us.
I certainly hope not, because I've used the F word a couple of times.
Yeah, we're not family friendly. But yeah, I just think that's such a good thing for kids to learn is just, hey, your family is this unbreakable bond, well, can't be broken no matter what you do. So you'll always return back to one another. I hope the remake even hammers that home a little harder. Yeah, but your thoughts are pretty similar to mine. I just love that idea. Yeah, I just love the idea.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, obviously Disney's focused on like family dynamics in the past, but I think this is one of the few that really kind of brought specific family scenarios to the limelight. I mean, yeah, we've had lots of Disney characters whose parents are dead by the time we meet them and all that sort of stuff, but we've never really seen the impact of like what it has on like older siblings who now have to look after the younger sibling and like getting social services involved. I mean, all that sort of stuff was very unique at the time for Disney. And yeah, to really kind of go that route is very, very daring in a good way. And I'm glad it really kind of made that fairly realistic in a film that is again just about a destructive alien who has like 6 legs or stuff and just causes chaos wherever he goes.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it work. It's I guess the word of the day is ostensibly because I keeps coming up in my mind, but it is a slice of life movie. It is a grounded sci-fi movie, even though there are plasma cannons and intergalactic cell phones and experimentation and all this crazy stuff, hyperdrives and whatnot. But yet I find myself more drawn to, hey, we're in Hawaii and here's this alien dog. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I always felt the alien stuff, as fun as it is. I mean, it always came second to the more human stuff, like the relationship with Lilo and Nani, and even all the stuff with Cobra. You know, all that stuff was much more impactful, I felt, than all the stuff with Stitch and stuff. I mean, because Stitch is a really fun character to watch. Like his level of chaos is unprecedented in the Disney universe, and obviously it's a very cute design. That's one of the things maybe that's had it brought about such longevity for the character. It's a great design, and to fair credit to the people who did the remake, they recognize that, and Stitch looks pretty much the same as he does in the original. I was talking with my friend about this the other day, and he always said, "Oh, maybe it's the Sonic effect because remember how Sonic had that original design, everyone hated it, and then they went back and made him look much more like he does in the game." So it's kind of like that. If you were to take a design like Stitch and give him a more like photorealistic look, then people would just hate it and just embrace the cartoon aspect of it, and because that's what people are drawn to, and that's why one of the reasons why Sonic became the success that it did, because they actually did listen to people. They wanted they didn't want this quote unquote ugly Sonic. They wanted just Sonic, and they got it to an extent. Like the design at least.
Yeah,
And it's also cool that they also got Chris Sanders back to voice Stitch in the new one, because I mean that voice you just can't really replicate with anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably get an imitator, but it wouldn't be the same. There's a certain flavor there in the performance.
Yeah, I mean, you could never get someone like Austin Butler to do Stitch. I mean, that would just be weird.
You'd have to
Well, you know what he does
bring up
if he
the
plays it as
fucking-
Elvis, then if he does it as Elvis, then that would kind of fit. But no, it's cool that they got Chris
Ooh, that
Sanders
can fit
to
too.
do it. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's all I had to say about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just gonna say about the design. You want to know the best Easter egg I noticed when watching this,
What's up?
rewatching this actually.
Yeah, what's
It,
up?
the the drawing that Lilo makes of Stitch, the badness meter,
Oh yeah.
is the exact like I think in Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch has a glitch. I think that is how much time he has before he dies, or something. I remember them referencing that drawing in Lilo and Stitch 2. So I just thought that was really clever. For I mean, I know they're probably already planning a franchise when they saw the box office numbers for Lilo and Stitch, but it's just little things like that I think that make the franchise really, really great.
Yeah, and it also shows that they pay attention to certain aspects of the continuity as well, rather than just like have a different creative team come on board and just kind of like put Lilo and Stitch in like a Indiana Jones film or something, like something like that.
I remember the moment. I was flashing back to like 2004 when I saw Lilo and Stitch 2.
Mm.
So the drawing comes up when Stitches die in the little like pod recharger pod. Spoilers for Lilo and Stitch 2. But if
Mhm.
you haven't seen it by now, you're probably not going to. Um I think he grabs onto it at the when he comes back to life. He grabs onto it, the little drawing or something like that. Or Lilo pushes it up against the glass. But that was the moment. I just remembered as you were talking. Like I was like, oh yeah, that's the moment.
It's been a while since I've seen Lilo and Stitch 2. The only thing I remember of it was that Dakota Fanning take over the voice of Lilo. I'm not complaining. I like Dakota Fanning, so as long as she gets work, I'm happy. So yeah, no, it's been a while. I didn't really remember much about other than that.
Apparently, I just have an eidetic memory for straight to DVD sequels of Disney movies.
Yeah, that's fine. I religiously watched Lion King 2 when I was a kid, so yeah, that's absolutely fine.
And King 1.5 was one of my favorites. But
That one was pretty good. That was pretty good.
but um before we get into spoilers, because we're already kind of broaching spoilers already, what would your rating be? You can either use 5 stars or out of 10.
Ooh, I mean, if you were to ask like 9 or 10-year-old me, I would it would be like a full five. But today as an adult, there's a lot to really like about it. There's also a lot that I kind of like. Maybe I'm just old now, but I just kind of got irked me a little bit more. I'd say this is. I'm going to be generous and give it a 4 because I think there's more about it that works that doesn't, and I think it's a gorgeous film to look at. It's definitely one of Disney's most stylistically unique films, not just of that time, but just of the 21st century so far. I think it's for me, it's probably up there with Fantasia 2000. Yeah, no, it really there's I think the voice acting is really good. I think the themes are on point, and yeah, just call it nostalgia, but it's a solid 4 for me. How about you?
Same, solid 4, with a little orange like on Letterbox, because I do think the character development is sorely needed. I mean, I realize it's like a 80-minute, 90-minute film, so there's not a lot of time with that. But like you were saying earlier, Captain Jamba, David, anyone other than really Lilo and Stitch, we don't really get any history or backstory or any insight into who they are really until Lilo and Stitch 2 or Leroy. Yeah, or Stitch the movie, one of those.
I just realized, by the way, I've been saying it's been Captain Jumbo. I think it's Captain Gantu, like thinking about
Oh
it.
yeah,
So
that's yeah.
yeah, so sorry. Yeah, Jumba's the scientist. So it's Gantu who's the weak villain at the end. Sorry about that, folks. We got
Yeah,
confused.
Gantu.
Kevin Michael Richardson. Yeah,
Yeah,
that iconic voice.
sorry about that, folks. But we all, as Hannah Montana would say, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days, and I will not sing any more of that for fear of copyright strike.
Yeah, as a slight tangent. You know that Hannah Montana wasn't originally supposed to be her name?
What was it supposed to be?
Alexis Texas, which a name I've not heard of.
Like the fake singer name that they have in Schitt's Creek?
No, I was thinking about the P star star N star.
Oh,
Yeah, P
gotcha.
apostrophe N. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you can see why Disney changed that to Hannah Montana. Yeah, I get it.
Well, the more you know.
The more you know. It could have been worse. They could have just picked Riley Reid instead. Anyway,
That would have been a interesting Disney Channel show.
Anyway, all that aside, yeah, let's get into some spoilers, shall we?
Oh, really quick before we do, if you want to avoid spoilers, I'll have a chapter marked in the episode's description, either marked final thoughts or social media plugs to skip ahead of spoilers. I think that's enough of a spoiler warning. Let's get into it. Let's first talk about Stitch. How do you feel? How do you feel about Stitch's character arc in the movie?
It's interesting. I think obviously the obvious thing is like he goes from this destructive agent of chaos to someone who's realizes he's alone without anyone there to back him up. And I feel like the turning point of that is certainly, that surfing scene, the Hawaiian roller coaster ride plays on the soundtrack. Obviously, you can see that change happen. I always felt, again, with the pacing and the character development, I always felt it was too quick. I always felt that maybe there needed to be maybe at least another couple of scenes, for him to really kind of understand the importance of Ohana and family. And I felt like it just all happened just because, it needed to happen for this kind of film, which, is fair enough. But I feel like in terms of the story, I feel like there's maybe just a little bit missing.
Yeah, I would have held off the reveal of like, he's good now to the surfing scene. Because we already see like shades of goodness before that, like pretty much right after the Ohana speech that Lilo makes. And it's just like, okay, but he's also like tearing up your pillows and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was just like you said, quick.
Yeah. I felt like, again, it's an 18, 19-minute movie, so like you're not going to have a lot of time for the most in-depth of character art building and stuff. But yeah, I think there could have been a bit more in that regard, but that's obviously asking a lot for this kind of film.
Yeah, maybe tack on another 10 minutes and that would be fixed. All the
Sure,
character
sure.
development stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah. And then going from Stitch to Lilo and Nani, I know we talked about this a bit earlier, but I'd love to go a little bit more into the dynamic between the two.
Yeah, and I think again, I mean, there's not much more to say about it in terms of like they're sisters, and as siblings do, they have lots of really petty squabbling and fighting and yelling matches and and they make up at the end and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that's what siblings do, and it felt really more than most other Disney films. They really kind of emphasized the sisterly bond between them, and I felt that was really important to see because in a lot of Disney films prior to then, siblings were usually just portrayed, just like very blandly without much room for fault, as it were. So yeah, I'm glad that they took a more realistic sibling approach to those characters because I felt it made their overall outcomes hit a lot harder in that regard.
Yeah, agreed. And I do think I maybe may have talked about it a little too much already. So I don't feel like there's really much more I have to say other than that, other than you feel the struggle of these two characters because they understand each other, but at the same time they're at odds with each other all the time. They're both having constant crash outs, as it were.
Yeah, that seems to be the word of the moment now. Crash outs. So
Yeah.
keeping on trend, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I could see a 6-year-old actress having crash out in the live action remake. I don't know about that.
I don't know. I mean, it'll be what it'll be. Whatever I think of the new one, I'll have next to no qualms with the young actor playing Lilo. I mean, she's a kid. She's doing her job. I mean, she is completely innocent in all of this. So I'm sure she'll do just fine. I mean, she looks cute in the trailers, but
Yeah.
but we'll see. We'll see how that characterization pans out.
And then moving from characterization, something we didn't talk about in the main discussion that I'd maybe like to touch a little bit more on because this is a lot of the identity of the film. Is Hawaii and Elvis and the place that the role they play in the film. I guess what are your thoughts on how Hawaii and its culture as well as the Elvis fan culture was brought to life in the movie?
Yeah, well, and I touched upon this earlier, but yeah, I mean the setting of Hawaii, the use of Elvis music on the soundtrack. I mean, I hate to admit it, but this was actually the first time I ever heard of Elvis Presley. Just hearing him mentioned in this film. Like, who is this guy? I felt, obviously that the core Hawaiian concept of Ohana obviously serves a huge important factor into the overall narrative. And I mean, look, I'm not an expert in Hawaiian culture. I know next to nothing about it. But I mean, the fact that they're just going out to try and represent it in the first place is obviously nice of them, and it looks like they're doubling down on it in the new version as well. They're actually hiring actual Hawaiian actors because as good as Davy Chase is in the original, I mean, she's not Hawaiian.
Yeah.
At least I don't think she is. But yeah, so they at least I'm glad they at least got actual Hawaiian actors to play these particular parts. So yeah, in terms of how they kind of like complement the identity of the of the story. I think it goes along with the fact that this is a very out of pocket idea. It's very unlike anything Disney's had done up to that point, and I felt like that setting, that choice of music, that even the choice of watercolor backgrounds, it's a very unique step for Disney, and I feel that it really kind of embraces that uniqueness in a way that not many other Disney films did before or even since.
Yeah, I think the closest any other film comes to it is maybe Emperor's New Groove, but that's like kind of mythological, so you can't really get a good sense for what the culture is like other than, hey, Cusco's a jerk. Okay. And
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to know anything about Aztec culture to, still enjoy that film. You can just be
yeah.
along with the characters and the comedy in that film. I mean, that movie is just great in its own way. But obviously, it's Lilo and Stitch we're talking about, and in that case, I felt that the setting and the soundtrack, all that stuff, it really kind of makes the film just a bit more like in its own way chaotic, a bit like how Stitch is in the actual film. Like it is a lot all at once. It's a lot that's unpredictable, and I felt like that's a good representation of just the unorthodox way that they're approaching it. So I give them props for that.
So yeah, I think it's something you can't separate from the film, right? They're one and the same. They're linked, uh, much in the way this family is linked together. And I think the thing I'm really going to be excited for in the live action remake is to explore that further. Because let's face it, we know that Lilo and Stitch 2025 is not going to be 80 or 90 minutes. It's going to be 2 hours. I guarantee you.
Mhm.
Because even like their short movies are 2 hours.
Yeah, that seems to be the way. I'm just looking on the thing. Apparently, it's 107 minutes.
That's
So about
hour 47.
hour 47. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's quite a bit more. But yeah, I'd love for the live action remake that comes out at the end of the month to really explore that and this kind of leeway in transitioning into my other question about like what we'd like to see in the new remake.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I'd love them to do what they did with the Lilo and Stitch series is really expand on the world, fill in the blanks, as it were, and do the character development and do the work.
Yeah, because the first scene in the movie it is just, I mean, it is just Jumba on trial, and Stitch has already been created. He's already been arrested and all that stuff, and it's just like it never really got a sense as to how this experiment kind of actually came into creation. Like hopefully the remake will expand on that a little bit, just to seeing how Zach Galifianakis' Jumbo really kind of creates him, as it were.
So first I just realized something about Zach Galifianakis,
Oh yeah.
and then two, addressing your other thing about Stitch's origin, that's expanded on in Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch has a glitch.
Oh, okay.
They actually show how he was created in that one.
Oh, they do? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I stand corrected then.
Yeah, so they'll probably do what they did with like Lion King, where they meld some of the sequel ideas into it. But I just realized that Zach Galifianakis was the in the Lilo and Stitch series. He was Leroy.
He was? He was?
He was the one who liked to eat the sandwiches.
Was he really?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't remember that. I never really watched his stuff. So I mean, like scrolling through his IMDb, I'm not seeing anything on there like that. So
Did
maybe
I
it was
imagine this?
maybe. I mean, maybe this is your own Disney gaslighting moment. That's a little bit with the pizza box.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna have a look at this because I don't know much about it either. But it's
Yeah.
the
I guess I got it
is
wrong.
it in the series or Leroy and Stitch?
Well, I thought it was in Leroy and Stitch, but I just looked up the Wikipedia thing, and apparently apparently not. He's only in the new one, in the Lilo and Stitch 2025.
I mean, that would make I think that would make sense.
I could have swore he was in. Okay, all right. Well, apparently there are some things I don't know about Lilo and Stitch, the series.
That's fine.
But but yeah, continue.
No, I think I mean, just obviously, I mean, you mentioned that his origin is covered in Lilo and Stitch too, and that's all well, and maybe they'll incorporate that into the new one as well. Other than that, I don't really know what to expect. I mean, I'm expecting it'll follow pretty much the original story to a T, almost, with a few changes here and there, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I know the director Dean Fleischer Camp. He also did Marcel with the Shell with Shoes On, and that was a good movie, and so I can see, him maybe bringing a bit of that quirky energy to Lilo and Stitch. I mean, I think it's going to be fair to say that, a Stitch is probably going to be the best part of it. I mean, even looking at him now, the live action CGI version of him, he is very adorable, like in his own chaotic way. So I can see, you know, the nostalgia for that original film plus the draw of that character really making that film a success. Whether or not it'll be a critical hit, obviously that's to be uncovered. But hopefully this will be one of the few remakes that actually does what it's supposed to do and just maybe expands a bit more on the story rather than just do it for beat for beat.
Yeah, I imagine we'll get an expansion of the Galactic. What is it called? The Galactic Federation? Um, what is it called? Yeah, Galactic Federation. I think that first scene will be at least 15 minutes.
Yeah, I imagine we'll get a lot more of the outer space stuff because I mean we only really kind of like get like glimpses of it, and I know like some of it's glimpsed in like the series as well, and I can't remember if Lilo and Stitch 2 did more of that as well, but
a little bit, but not much.
Well, either way, it should be pretty good to see all that stuff hopefully done in the sequel. But I don't know. I'm just going along, hoping it's a good time. It is great. If not, who cares really? Just Mission Impossible comes out the same day, so it's not going to be a wasted afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, and if both of those are bad, it's just a ruined trip to the theater.
Well, you know what? In at least in one of them, you'll get Tom Cruise like hanging off a plane midair. So I mean, who knows? Maybe Stitch will do that in the remake as well. I mean, there is a scene where he's just on the outside of a spacecraft in the original, so that it could well happen again here.
That would
Twice in
be
the same
fun
day.
because I know Disney would love to do like poke fun a little bit, especially with the Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. It's tricky to say that name, and I voted for it in every category I could in our critic awards for IFSC. Well, let's see. Anything else we should talk about? I think that well covers it, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I think we've said all we can in terms of like spoilers and unspoilers and all our other little rants, Stitch popping up in Poor Things and things like that. So I still want to see that happen. Yeah, I know there's going to be someone out there who does something like that, just like a fan edit, just puts like not even the newer Stitch, just the original animated Stitch in a scene from Poor Things, just in the background. Like, if you're out there and you have the editing skills, do it. I want to see it.
Yeah, do it. TikTokers, I know you can do it.
You can make us all proud.
But with that, I'd love to hear listeners and I guess watchers. I know some people watch this, some people listen. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Lilo and Stitch in either the Spotify or YouTube comments, or even my website comments or Patreon comments. You can also contact me on social media. I'm mainly on Blue Sky, but my name is austinb.media on Blue Sky. I'll have them here at the bottom of the screen. Hopefully, editing Austin, you've done your job. My very own Discord and Patreon community chat. And speaking of Patreon, if you'd like early access to the next episode, unedited version of this episodes, head on over to patreon.com/AustinBeatMedia. For just $3 a month, you get, early access to things like these, editorial schedules every month, and so much more. I'm even offering a free month of my $10 tier. I'll include a link to that in the episode description, as well as a code to get 20% off your first month or year of any tier you want. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a rating, do all the things, review it on your favorite podcast app, whatever you want to do. And Thank you for joining me, Jack, today. Can people follow your work at Film Feeder?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Austin. It's always a pleasure. I've been on this show a few times already, and it's always
Mhm.
just such a delight. And yes, you can find me. I'm on Film Feeder on most apps, so that like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd, all that stuff. Instagram, I am Film Feeder Insta because just Film Feeder was taken. You can also visit my website at filmfeeder.co.uk. I publish a lot of written reviews every week, as well as little movie roundups of the latest film releases in the UK. I call them movie menus, so they're all on my website. And I also have my own podcast as well, which is just the Film Feeder podcast. You can find that on all the regular channels, and also a version on YouTube. So if you want to visit me and follow me there, then welcome aboard. I'm always up for new patrons of my place.
Yeah, chances are, if I'm not covering something, Jack is. Genuinely, you have the most output I've ever seen of one singular person. It's well, maybe other than Elise. She gets a lot of reviews out there, so I fully recommend you all follow him if you aren't already. You've also got a Kofi. Is that your main?
I do have Ko-fi. I also have Patreon, patreon.com/filmfeeder. I upload episodes of podcasts like 24 hours before the rest of the world. I also have a new video up there of my interview with the director Andrew Arn for The Wedding Banquet. That's also on there. But I usually post there as well, and Ko-fi as well. I keep those up to date as well. Yeah, so I'm pretty much available everywhere, and yeah, I'll try and keep up my insane one man workload, which is quite alarming now. You think about it. I really need to get a job, a real job, or a girlfriend or something. I don't know. But either way, I love what I do, and I love what you do, Austin. You're always so insightful about these sorts of things, and like I said, I love coming on your show. I love just chatting movies with you, and yeah, hopefully, it won't be too long until the next time I'm bothering you on your show.
Yeah, come on. You're always welcome to come on for any episode. You're open invitation.
Well, same here. If you ever want to join me on my podcast as well.
Yeah, just let me know what podcast episode you're playing, and we'll get something hooked up.
Nice.
But with that said, I've been your host, Austin Belzer, and until next time.